Hello and welcome to Infamous, the audio podcast. This is Brandon, or Mutilus on Discord.
This is Parker, go by One Who Parks on Discord.
This is Jeremy, go by just Jeremy playing Diablo 4 on Discord. Also Necromancer 1087544_ on Discord.
This is Aaron. I go by Treffinwood.
Aaron has the hardest job on the podcast. He has to follow Jeremy's bullshit.
I actually love that we can never hold it together until we get to Aaron's, and Aaron's is always no, sir. You have definitely interrupted everything before, but I love it that after we deal with the bullshit, Aaron always comes in with a straight
Just
answer.
because Aaron started this podcast doesn't mean I stopped my bullshit. This bullshit has been going on long before Aaron got here.
This train has no
brakes.
brakes.
I will be known by whatever I so goddamn feel.
Mm-hmm.
It's my feelings, and you can't tell me how to be.
It's what the listeners want.
So let's do it. It's what they crave.
All right. Moving on past introductions.
Barely.
I have some announcements.
Mm-hmm.
First announcement. Parker, you're down to 1,908 probationary episodes.
Oh, boy.
This is where I insert a comment about having complete faith in you.
Yep.
Moving on.
Complete faith.
The next announcement. I seem to be getting a lot of friend requests in Diablo, and I'm hoping that those are listeners and not bots. But if you are friending me on Diablo,
mostly bots.
Hello.
And
hello, friends.
if you are a Chinese bot, please don't take
on.
all my money.
Please stop sending me friend requests if you're a robot. Unless you're a friendly robot, then we'll talk.
Select all things that are trains.
To become friends. Select all things that are trains.
Yes.
Parker, I have an announcement for you.
Ooh, boy.
You have made an enemy.
Oh, good.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. I spoke to Nigel this week, and he has declared a feud against you for voting to not allow Aaron on the podcast.
When did I vote to not allow Aaron on the podcast?
When we were voting to let Aaron on, I voted yes, Jeremy voted yes, you voted no, and it passed with majority. And so when I said this on the last podcast, Nigel listened to it, and he called me, and he told me that, you're number one on his hit list now.
Not only do I not remember voting, I don't remember.
I mean, that's not exactly new. You didn't remember our topic one day.
Yeah. I care so much, I forget things. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
You can't blame him. He was high.
I was.
I was high when I said that.
I was high when I said that.
Nigel said he's given up his feud with me to have a feud with you because you only have so many feuds.
I thought Nigel already had a feud with me after our last game. Wasn't that Nigel who had a feud with me? I'm acquiring a lot of feuds recently. I can't.
Do you even know who Nigel is?
I'm trying to piece out all the different feuds I have now. I'm pretty sure. Nope.
He's got a lot of beefs.
I did not have the Nigel feud. I got a different feud. Who was that feuded with me after the last major event?
Literally cannot even remember his feuds and expects to remember how he votes.
Christ.
Yeah, I can't remember anything about feuding or voting. Maybe that's what it is. Feuding and voting are my two blind spots.
That's really
blind spots.
The betting is definitely right down the middle, though.
Yeah,
it's got a light spotlight on it.
I've got an eye for a wager. But
all right, so final announcement. It's come to my attention that I messed up the edits on the last few episodes. And left some silence in. So just letting you know, that's my bad. That's 100% on me. You should not day drink and edit podcasts, but we're going to move on. Next for today, we've currently playing. Jeremy, what are you playing? Anything changed? Still doing the Suns?
I am going to mix it up. I have to create a palate cleanser at this point. Forget everything you knew. About
forget everything you thought you knew about Gates, because here comes.
Yep. Oh God. Yeah. I think I'm looking back at Spider Foes. I really love those models, and I did have a lot of fun when I was playing them. So probably do some sort of mashup Spider Foes, Criminals. They work together really well. A lot of fun. A lot of good models.
Cool.
So I'm gonna put that together for tomorrow night.
Parker.
I'm still playing my Avengers What Blanks list. It's got all the guys that turn blanks into blocks, and it's been very effective, and it's actually part of the podcast topic, so that's all I'll say about it right now. but it's been very effective. I've watched it just stymie people and Wonder Woman, everybody blocking everything and not taking damage. It's doing what it's supposed to do. I like where it's at right now.
Cool. Aaron?
I played 3 games since we last casted. 2 X-Force last Thursday for local game night, and then 1 Hellfire in the TTS League.
Nice.
Name 3 things that you learned.
Yeah.
Cable's not good. Suck it, Nigel.
You son of a bitch.
You take that back. He is a cornerstone of my play.
Edit. Cut that out. Cut that out.
There was a dangerous week where everyone but me was playing Cable, and I'm like, what is happening?
I know.
Is there a rat I didn't know about? Why are you guys intentionally losing games?
Everyone figured out why he's so strong. Just don't play him in his own affiliation, and he's fine.
There was a dangerous week. That was pretty crazy. I'm like, what is happening? Like all these teleportations and people are throwing stuff of any size, but this is weird.
Yeah, I've actually probably still negative overall with X-Force, although I did win the last 2 games with them. They're interesting. They just don't do anything special.
Cool. All right. I have been playing Thanos in Guardians lately. It's been going pretty well. I've played a surprisingly large amount of Midnight Suns as my opponents. I think it is 4 of my 7 games have been Midnight Suns. It's been kind of odd.
Yeah, it was a weird turnout for that tournament and like game nights and stuff. I'm not sure what happened there.
Yeah, everyone switched lists at the exact same time, and a lot of people switched to the same thing, so it's been very weird.
So what we're saying is, everybody stick with what you know, except us.
Yeah.
Let us do the exploring.
I'm eyeballing Convocation to move back to Convocation potentially. But that being said, I don't know that people want me to play Convocation. I don't know. We'll see.
As long as you don't
People
have hammers,
you
it'll
to.
be all right. It'll be fine.
Do what?
You can't have hammers and Convocation.
Oh, I gotta pick one? All right, hammers.
Okay. Wait, no.
You remember how long I spent telling people don't play hammers because someone will abuse it more than you? Like, you remember how long I've been saying that? It's been like 2 years.
Yeah.
I haven't had it in my list.
So now I just
years.
played that list, and it's amazing. It's just like, oh, cool, free wins. I like free wins. This is awesome. I'm like, I guess I played this Eye on the Prize card, and like then I have 4 hammers on Thanos. That seems fine. That seems like God intended.
Yeah, it definitely seems a natural fit.
Mm-hmm. All right. So let's move on. Our next topic. Parker, you said that you had a bit of a revelation with playing your new Avengers list. Do you want to walk us through what you feel you've experienced?
So, if anyone's listened to the podcast for a while, they would know that I have never been able to dabble more than like 1 game at a time with a scenario-focused list. Something that is basically just bending all the elements of the list to just score points. I really didn't like Web Warriors with controlling. I really didn't like Kingpin and just kind of sitting on points. I didn't enjoy that aspect of the game. I have learned while playing beat-em-up lists how to better interact with a variety of scenarios, and I feel like I've started to get enough games. I was like, well, let me go ahead and try something a little bit different. And so I built the list that I'm playing right now, the all martial artists, slash using blanks for blocks and using multifaceted characters in Avengers to have a lot of mobility and being able to play a whole, lot of them if I need to, and just stick on the board longer than my opponent. And basically, I just had a game the other day who I was playing against somebody who had the same game plan, and my list was just better at it than him, and so I won. And I did not think that was going to happen going into it. I couldn't. He was playing Hellfire, and he was like, "Yeah, I was planning on just kind of gobbling up all the scenario points and not really interacting with you, but your list is better at doing that. So you just kind of had a handed." You kind of handed the victory, and I was like, "Yeah." And he did play. It was not like it was 0 to 20, but it really was hard for him to find it out because I had his was just not trimmed down like mine was trimmed down to do this, and he didn't have a lot of go kill you models, and so my models, I think I took like 3 damage across the entire game. The point is, afterwards, I was like, wow, I won a game handily, doing exactly my strategy better than my opponent trying to do my strategy. I should be satisfied, but I wasn't. And it felt totally different than every game I've ever played where I'm trying to beat up my opponent and remove as many of their models as possible. They're trying to move as many of my models as possible and win on scenario eventually. Those games always felt like a bit of an exercise. I was done feeling good. We had both really slugged it out. Or maybe if one of us totally rolled over the other, like I felt like there was a real, give and take, blow by blow by blow. But this was no blows. There was no blows. It was just victory. Hollow. But victory.
Empty.
Yeah. And so I guess I'm looking at this going, my list is pretty good at this. Do I keep playing it knowing that this is what I'll get? Is more of these? I guess that's the question. Is this game for those kind of hollow victories? Am I playing the right version of the game because I'm really trying to interact with the game state, the scenarios that is? Or should I be fighting my opponent and trying to do better at that? I guess I'm just running into I guess I got my wish, right? That's the point. I got my wish, and I don't know if I like it.
So you're saying is in my opinion, I would say that you've discovered like that there was a reason you've been playing attrition this whole time because that's your play style.
Right.
And so having success at something you're not particularly interested in isn't fulfilling. Because you're not particularly interested in just doing a control list where you don't really you just play defense, score points, and just watch the time run out, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And there's a reason why this one appeals to me the most, because it has a lot of the things that I do like, which is I love synergies, I love defense, defensive plays over control. I don't like just like deflection. I love the idea of my dice being better than my opponent's, and I'm stacking all kinds of buffs and effects. Every time my opponent says, I will attack, I go, wait, I have 3 reactions. Like, I love that kind of play where I'm very busy defending my characters with a lot of synergies amongst characters. Like, it definitely, the list appeals to me because it scratches a lot of those itches. But usually I'm using all those synergies to do damage, right? I'm using all those synergies to impress my will upon the opponent. In this case, I'm doing all these things to just stand there and be there at the end of the round to score more. Also, I'm doing things that, like, I watch Aaron play these games at tournament where I will, like, 3 of my 5 activations in a round or double move pick up or double move interact. And every time I've ever watched Aaron do that, I go, wow, that's really, really smart to win the game. I would have never done that. And now I'm starting to do that, and I go, wow, that was really, really smart to win the game. I don't know if I want to do this.
There's a limit to your degenerate ability? Parker, come on.
I suppose I've reached my lack of kill limit or something. I don't know what it is. Like, for example, I was playing, against this Hellfire guy. It reminded me a lot of the list, Aaron. I think it was at LVO. It was like round 5 or something. I came and watched your game, and you were playing your criminals, I think, versus an X-Men, I want to say, and you were all just like ring around the rosy on a D, and that's exactly what we had this game the other night. It was a D scenario, and we were literally, none of our characters ended up where they started. All of us moved like 2 or 3 around eventually, and the whole time I'm just like, wow, this is a really interesting, I guess, like Chinese checkers. Like, it was like, it was, you know what I mean? Like, we were managing the number of times we could move and the number of activations we had. We were never managing like our health really that much. We were never really managing. It was just a management of position and actions. And in that method, that's the reason why I won, is I had better movement and better actions than he did. It's interesting when you turn the game into that. That being said, this game was my first one that felt like that because I was going up against somebody else doing the same game plan. All my other ones have been against attrition lists, and they were a little bit more interactive, I'd say. This is the first one where I was like, this is just a game of who blinks first.
Slap fight.
Yeah.
So my question there is, in your games against attrition, have you been trying to do the same thing while staying alive, or have you been trying to fight back?
Really, it's just been trying to stay the same thing while staying alive. It's always just been kind of defensive. The one game I had that I had to go into offense was finally I just had a bunch of games with a bunch of secures, but I had one on Demons Downtown. And when I had one on Demons Downtown, I went, okay, I'm going to have to sit here and fight for 3 turns. I'm going to have to. And luckily, on turn 3, Black Panther and Cable's dice just appeared out of nowhere, and I was able to down 2 of his characters. But if I hadn't been able to do that, I definitely would have lost, because I would not have been able to fend him off long enough as a Guardians player. Yeah. But I just happened to get exactly 2 characters showed up at the right moment to keep him from getting 2 activations. Otherwise, he would have definitely started dazing my guys. And then from there, I still just won, just barely, at the very end by running everybody away in every direction with an extract. Mm-hmm. So that one was when I had to fight or just lose. Sure. And it happened to show up.
I think it's very important for people, especially people that want to excel at the game, to get reps with lots of different play styles. That way you can understand it from both points of view. Because there's a lot of times people will be trying to figure out how to counter something. If you don't have experience with it, it's actually pretty hard. Because it's harder to feel the weakness from the far side of the table. And so when you're playing it, you can see all the little plans form and then fail because I don't have the range to get here. I don't have the power I need, or I don't have the activations I need to get priority. I don't have whatever it happens to be. I don't have the power generation to do all the things I want to do. So when you see that from the far side, you can see all the restrictions. It's easier to see how to play against it and to enforce those restrictions on your opponent.
Here's another thing that I've started to figure. I'm learning much better now. Who has the extract is such a subtle game that I've learned playing this list. For example, I will always pick up the extract on anybody except Steve and Okoye, mm-hmm. because as soon as I pick up something with Steve and Okoye, they've already taken damage, they've already taken heat because I'm already bodyguarding and stuff. But as soon as I pick something up with anybody except them, the job for my opponent becomes so much harder. It becomes insanely harder as soon as I pick up an extract with anybody except Steve or Okoye. Things like that. I know which seem really obvious, don't pick up the extract with Steve, but I've seen so many players pick up an extract with Steve. It's happened so much in opposition to him, as people will, because he's the guy who can move around, he can afford on turn 1 to not set up for something later, right? So a lot of people pick up the extract with Steve, or pick it up with Okoye because she's a 2-point model and she's your extra one. So people do that kind of stuff, and I've learned now just never ever. I don't care if I have to get a model across the board on turn 1. Mm-hmm. Send something else, not Steve, to pick up the extract, because then it becomes such a vaulted extract whenever you don't have, when you have the bodyguard next to the character with it.
Venom's very much the same for different reasons, but you never want to spend power on the first turn with Venom. Right. You always want 2 power on turn 2. Yeah, I can definitely see that. I think usually it comes down to either lack of experience or poor planning, because there's the times when you don't really have a choice, you have to pick it up because they're just going to get it if you don't. Mm-hmm. Steve accidentally dazes somebody and you're like, oops, I guess I'm picking this up, but you don't really have a choice in those situations. You mean when you're making your early game plan, right, you need the plan to be Steve doesn't pick stuff up. And I think a lot of people miss that. Or you're playing a super tall list. You only got 3 or 4 models and you don't really have a choice. Everyone's got to pull their weight.
Also, on the topic of Cable, I found that in lists, you would think that if you're trying to play only scenario, right, that you'd want to have all your models just to be totally about scenario. But I have found so much mileage out of someone like Cable, because Cable in Avengers, he can be your center point extract taker. He's one of those guys who can move up, pick up, and then move backwards towards your back line. The fact that he can do that and then keep doing exactly what he wants to do for the rest of the game, contribute all the time with his defensive dice, with his throws, with his gun, he seems so much more efficient than getting 1 point back for a 4-pointer like Beta Ray Bill. Because not only am I not spending the tactics card, so it could be something like mission objective, which keeps me longer, but then Cable also is contributing to what he always wanted to do anyway, which is be in the back shooting. Like getting things trimmed down to that point is something, again, I hadn't figured out yet. But
do you mean like the back D, or which points are you talking about?
He moves up, takes like the Montesi formula in the center, and then he can immediately move backwards onto a back D or a back F.
How is he getting to the center? He's a short mover.
Short move, medium base, plus his place 2 for 1, and he gets 2 power on turn 1.
Oh, because he's Steve leadership. That's right.
Body slide.
So you're placing. Okay, yeah, that makes sense.
He is a stealer, so I don't play Beta Rebuild or Mission Objective because he will steal the center extract on turn 1 in Steve Avengers. And
I think Bill might be an interesting inclusion, but not because he can play eyes. Right.
Yeah, it's there are lots of interesting things I've learned about just making everything as trim and as efficient as possible with this. I don't know. I've been talking a lot about how much I've enjoyed building the list, but then playing it has been a really Pyrrhic victory. Does anyone?
That's kind of how my Sam list felt. Like once I started playing again, like I remembered exactly why I loved playing it before, because it was so easy to play. Like it was just like smooth brain run downhill. Like just every activation felt so obvious. So when I didn't want to have to think about stuff, it was a really good list to play. Like it's a great list to play on like day 3 when you're like mentally exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
But it's if you're trying to do like just go have fun, it's not the list to play because it's so boring. There's no interesting interactions. Like everything's just like, all right, I move up and I do my attack. I move up and I do my attack, like across the board. And it's just like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you're exactly right. There's also something about the footprint. Like I love the footprint. I love the way it looks on the tournament tray. It's just when I actually put it down, if it works great. It does exactly what I want it to. Should I just be happy? Am I complaining about nothing?
I mean, so the game we played, it was priority. I lost when I lost priority. Like when you basically stole it and got away. So how are you playing when you don't have priority? Like how do you get an extract?
He's never lost the roll.
Well, no, I mean like how do you get an extract back with that list? I don't understand.
It's Black Cat, right?
Black Cat. It's not Black Cat. It's Spider Woman.
That's right.
Oh yeah, Spider Woman. Okay.
Yeah, Spider Woman is pretty easy to maneuver and manage when everything costs 1 less, and then she has enough for her spender pretty commonly.
I was just checking.
So the problem I have with your list, Parker, not to poo-poo on it or anything, because I think it's a good list. I do think you hard lose to some of the other all-in scenario lists, but that's because like they're just going like I don't see how you're going to compete with like Web Warriors like all-in scenario, just because like you have the same trick for stealing extracts except they've got more. Your list doesn't hit very hard and they're slightly above average survivability. And then they're just going to move all your guys off the points. And so unless you're getting like lucky pay to flip rolls, it just feels like a really bad situation. Now, that being said, if it's really strong against everybody else, then that's probably a price that's worth it as long as you have an option to play into the Web Warrior style list.
Mm-hmm. Oops. Well, I actually modeled this after like the Web Warriors idea, which is just not really interact with others, but make sure your models can interact with others. And I still don't know what beats the Web Warriors except what I've been in before. I was playing Shadowlands Daredevil, and I just killed a Web Warrior with every activation, and that felt great. They just died, and that was awesome. But I didn't want to play Shadowlands Web Warriors right now, so Shadowlands Daredevil right now. So you're right. I don't think this does not overwhelmingly damage, and it doesn't pop off on one turn like the Web Warriors can either.
Do you play Mark for Death in your list currently?
It does not have it currently, no. It could.
You should probably find a way to get it in there.
Yeah.
For that exact reason. Agent Venom could also be a fun addition for like a specific matchup, but my guess would be if you want to actually be able to play against them, you'll probably have to have some kind of transformative alternate.
Mm-hmm.
So it sounded like you don't actually enjoy playing it, though.
That's the thing, yeah. I've learned that like I built this really nice list that's really consistent at what I decided to do. As it turns out, I think I just want to beat people up.
Mm-hmm. No, it's same thing. Like I could play Web Warriors till my eyes bleed, but I like fighting people.
Yeah, Aaron, I have a question for you.
Okay.
Aaron's busy counting his trophies. Hold on.
Yeah. 1 trophy. 2 trophy.
No, he's way higher than that. He's up to the 4s.
The 40s?
No, 4.
4 digits.
Oh, 4s. 4 digits.
No, just 4. Like
he's made a trophy shelf out of trophies.
Shit. I got 4 last Saturday.
He's glued all of his championship coins together and made a shelf out of it. And then he puts all of his actual trophies on top of that.
Mm-hmm. His whole floor is just coins in resin. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you guys aren't wrong. What's up?
Aaron, what is... when you get done with a match like I'm describing, where it was just, the tete-a-tete, when I watched you play, where do you find the satisfaction, I suppose, walking away from that? I'm not saying it's impossible, so I'm asking how, because I've seen you gravitate towards some of these lists and you enjoy playing them in the tournament setting. So what is it about those that you really enjoy? And I'm just curious because I'd like to know if I had it, but I just didn't notice.
Okay, so when you walk up to your the game and you shake hands with your opponent, you should look at their eyes. They are typically full of hope. Over the course of the game, you watch that leave their body every time they look at the table and look at their cards and look at the table again. And every time they do, you just siphon off a little bit of that joy. Until on turn 4, when they're like, there's nothing I can do. You're just like, yes. You have now arrived at Nirvana.
Yeah. It's funny that you mentioned that because I totally feel that kind of schadenfreude when I table someone and they're just like, ugh, I never even got to activate that model and it was just removed by Bullseye or some silly thing like that, right? Mm-hmm. And that kind of thing, I get it. Like I feel that I get that kind of satisfaction. You're right. I should never have been able to remove it, but my whole army is, designed for killing. So it's exactly what I wanted to happen, and yes, it's happening to you.
Yeah. So that answer. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No, that's it.
That's mostly tongue in cheek, but the real answer is, I think the list that you're describing, whether it's Web Warriors, Avengers, Hellfire, anything that's trying to win on scenario, even X-Men, right, is presenting a problem for your opponent, right? It's a puzzle. It's, I'm stealing these. I'm going to go up on extracts, /secures, and turtle. What can you do about it? So they're 2 very different lists. We have Malekith, Ihulk on one side, and then we have, let's call it Web Warriors on the other. Malekith says, I'm going to do X. Can you deal with it? Sam Avengers, Web Warriors say the exact same thing. I'm doing X. Can you deal with it? They are, in essence, here's what I think. Those 2 lists are the exact same play style. And that's going to blow your mind, but I really believe it's correct. They're both trying to dictate the terms of the game to their opponent in a way that's favorable to them. They're trying to take away, I'm going to call it game agency, from the other player. Right? I'm either going to kill you all if I'm Malekith. Oh, look at that. I did. I win. Or I'm going to steal everything and run away. Oh, look at I did. I win. Right? I really believe at the core, they're the exact same play style.
Yeah. It's been boiled down previously to like a questions or answers list. Like, what does your list do? If it just asks one question as hard as it can, it's fairly binary. It's like, if you accomplish your goal, you're obviously going to win. If your opponent can answer the question hard enough, then you won't, and you'll have to actually play the game. And you have no tools left because you've invested every single resource you had into that one strategy.
So I've always felt good/okay about some of the games because, like I said, I'm asking a question. My opponent always gets to, unlike a Malekith, they always get a chance to take an action. Like, maybe they need to be risky early and dive my back spider infected. Maybe they need to, double move this person to sit on my back gamma and then fight next turn. But my opponent always gets to do something. Like, I don't think there's a Web Warrior / Avengers list that just auto wins. Right? They can be significantly advantaged, but I think there is a counter to them, period. Like, your opponent can have something that just says no. So for me, the fun part is especially the games that get close, like the one I just played. Like, I was down 4-3, then I was up 8-7, then I was up 13-10. Like, it was close. And if a couple dice go a different way, then the game flips to him, if that kind of makes sense. So I like close games where I'm trying to win on scenario. I'm leveraging displacement and the scenario to achieve a victory, as opposed to really attacking their models at all. But I'm still presenting them with opportunities to be engaged with the game that I'm hoping they fail.
I think it is. There is something to be said about the puzzle, like you said, of they will be able to do something. So whenever they present you with an answer, like to use your parlance, you being able to then ask them a question again. It's been done where if somebody they drop a Black Panther and they send it right at Cap and Cable. I'm like, okay, I'm gonna have to figure out how to get these two guys in a spot in which Black Panther doesn't just bump them around and ruin all of my plans, right? But I eventually do that, and then they have to think of another way to dislodge them as a unit off a point. But there is something to be said about your opponent might try. Your opponent will throw things at it. Hopefully, I suppose it's just what's the best way to put it? It almost I totally see your analogy to like it being with Malekith, is that your opponent needed to have exactly the right thing. I suppose could somebody explain to me what is the right thing against the Web Warrior list to your mind? I said Shadowlands Daredevil because that's what I've done before once. What is the correct answer to this kind of not passive, it's very active, but hands-off playstyle where you're just fending people off and scoring?
Well, the scenario blitz control style that Web Warriors play, like they have weaknesses built into their characters. Like you can see it across the table. Like they're weak to mystic attacks in general. It's their lowest defense, and they don't have extra bonuses to defending against it. And then their whole point is keep away. Like so, anyone who has the target opportunity or the counter control enough to still get to them poses a pretty big threat. And so,
size 3 models. Like when you can't be pushed with Gwen.
Impact webbing.
Yeah.
And obviously their list can still move you. It just makes it more difficult. Every time you go up a size category, you become more difficult to deal with.
Yeah.
Their weaknesses are also very efficient, large attacks that high damage generally. Like they're extremely good against low dice attacks. Like shoot them at rapid fire, they're pretty consistent. But if you can do large, big, chunky attacks that are consistent, they'll punch through their 5 hit points pretty easy.
The actual way I think to beat Web Warriors, this is going to seem weird, but I think you pick extracts against them and you slow the tempo of the game down.
Mm-hmm.
So if you are playing an attrition style list, you should probably have 3 extracts, maybe 4 if you really want hammers. But you should probably be playing a slow tempo list, and that's typically dictated by the extracts. So we'll play on their secures, but my extracts, which means the game's going to go into turn 4 or 5 instead of 3, 4. And that gives me the opportunity to set up attrition on turn 2, 3, and 4 to achieve my scenario win by dazing them and taking their extracts that they stole turn 1. And that can be any list. But a lot of it comes down to list selection, scenario inclusion in your list. So unless you're trying to win on scenario, you should not be playing 4 or 5 extracts.
Totally agree. I see that happen so often too.
Yeah, it's pretty deflating to lose on turn 3. That's pretty rough, but it does happen. Spiders can do that so fast.
Jeremy, as somebody who's spent a lot of time playing kind of the other side of this coin that Aaron's proposing, which is the big guy question, the Malekith question, do you feel it's really satisfying to be able to put your big guy question down on the board and your opponent can't answer it, and so you just wipe them out and you walk on? Is that something that gets you jollies? What about it is satisfying, I guess, is my question.
So the randomness of the dice, which is kind of odd, doesn't affect you like it affects other models, in that you know that you're not going to be one-shotted, and you're usually going to be where you want to be. So the big models generally, I like playing the models that have a health pool that's deep enough and defensive tech and things that are good enough that whatever happens, I'm going to be where I need to be next turn. And I should have done, some quality activation. Whereas most 4 and 5 point models, I mean, even some of the best ones can get offed by almost anything with some lucky dice. So that's one thing that I really like about playing some of, the big guys. That's kind of all I would say about that. The rest of it is, I mean, because they do kill models, but I mean, if we talk about like the new hotness right now is Hulk, Immortal Hulk. Now I can tell you more times than not now, he came out the box super hot. He did a lot of damage. He killed a lot of things. He's really died down for me. He's not killing everything in the world right now. Now, so my expectation now is I'm seeing, I attack something and he seems to be doing about 3 points of damage per attack, and he's getting his throw 1 out of every 2 or 3 times. So that's what you do. But he never dies. So that's what you get. And you get a model that's very consistent. He can do throws and he never dies. So that's what you get. And he can kind of be wherever he wants to be. So it's like, am I talking about a 5-point juggernaut? I mean, is that what you actually need? And you don't need a 7-point model. So like, it is what it is. I think that they're all very, very different. But what I like about them is they are there next turn and usually the turn after that. And they're doing the job that you ask of them. And they're not getting offed from random shit.
I can speak a little bit similar to it because I know me and Jeremy like similar lists a lot of the time. I enjoy the super elite models because of the just the way they feel on the table. You feel like you're getting to impose your will on stuff, and it gives you an opportunity where if you take smaller pointed models, generally they're designed either to not do very much or to have obvious weaknesses. It's just standard game design. This is well outside of MCP just in general. And sometimes you just want to have fun, cool cinematic moments where like, oh, this guy, totally destroyed this other thing. It's one of the reasons I like Magneto so much. If you put Magneto in the right situation, he does very impressive things. And I enjoy those moments when he does those things. And so like same thing with Malekith. I like when he goes in and just lays waste to something that normally nobody else could do. I find that as a fun experience. And then it's also the like Jeremy was saying too, elite models that are expensive are so because they don't generally have a weakness. And so you don't have to worry about getting them in a situation where they're going to have a bad time. Like you have to worry about like the Logan having 2 Mystic Defense, like that kind of stuff. Like Logan is overtuned in a lot of places because he's got that obvious weakness. And so you want to have elite models that like can do everything. And it's kind of like you play like Stormcast in AOS, or you play, Custodes in 40K, like whatever it happens to be. You're playing the best models because they feel powerful, and you want the models you play to feel powerful. Other people might not enjoy that as much. They might play like more technical models like glass cannons. Like I like playing models that do lots of damage, and it's okay if they die. Like they should take damage in return. Like an example of that is Pyro or Human Torch. Like they can put out the damage, but they don't take it at all. And so it's just, the way models are designed. I think people in general lean towards different models for whatever reasons, their experience, their likes, their dislikes. And so I think a lot of people end up getting to the models that they like, less so for theme and more so for how they feel on the table.
That's interesting because so we've already just talked about how I've never enjoyed the kind of list this is, right? The very uninteractive scenario focused list. I've also never enjoyed the big guy list. So a little bit more evidence on top of that Aaron's argument that they're similar in style. I just don't like question type lists. I like answer type lists, and that's probably true.
Well, I think you still like question lists. It's just because question list doesn't mean it's like a specific like brick that fits through a specific hole. Like there's a lot of different ways you approach. I would say the majority of your list, Parker, are question lists. Like your bucket of bullets list that you played, that was Shadowlands Daredevil with all the rapid fire people. You like that list, right?
Yes, it was.
That is 100% an attrition style questions list. There is no answers in that list whatsoever. It's press the attack button.
True.
But because it's a fun interactive decision making process where you're the one with, I guess the tempo would be the right word.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're the one making the decisions, and your opponent is still responding to you. But you're not preventing them from playing the game. You're just achieving your condition before they can. It's like, I'm going to get your models off the table before you have a chance to either win on scenario or to table me in return. Like, because my models just do more damage than yours.
Yep.
And so there's a lot of layers to it.
No, Brandon's keyword there was interactive. You're wanting to play an interactive game where both you and your opponent get to make choices that help dictate the outcome.
Yeah.
Both the big boy and the wide scenario are non-interactive lists. That's their similarity.
Mm-hmm.
It's specifically proactive as well. Like the defensive list you have has lots of things you do, but they're all reactive. You're responding to something your opponent's doing, but you're getting there by requiring them to get over a wall. And it's like if they can climb the wall, they got it, but if they can't, you win. And so, but you just sit there and wait for them to do stuff. Like you're not being proactive about anything. It's where your shoot 'em up list that is 100% proactive. I'm making all the decisions for my team. And then I just let you do what you do on your turn, and then I try and make the best decision on my turn.
That is a really good point. I was sitting at the top of turn 2 with this list, and I went, I really don't need to do anything except move Black Widow away from those guys because she has a point. So I was like, I'm going to spend my first activation, instead of being aggressive and offensive and removing something or removing a threat, I was like, he has to kill me, and all my guys are good at living, so I'm just going to get the worst model at living, which is Black Widow, away from the most dangerous situation. And that was the best. Like the best thing I had to do was put my Black Widow in a slightly more survivable place. That was the best. That was the answer.
What you're describing is a lot of times what ends up losing me the game. I honestly hate fucking running away. Yeah. I will always I'm like, well, I could run away with these two things, or, I mean, I can, I find myself, I'm just like, well, I got to go do something. I have to do something. I can't just run away. So I'll go stand on this point, and then someone will come and kill me. I'm like, well, I can't just fucking run away. I fucking hate it.
Yeah.
But yeah, if that's not what you like, if it's not fun, for Christ's sake, don't do it. And I can tell you, for your opponent, it is zero fun. Just butting heads against a brick wall, because that's what it is. You're playing against 5 Captain Americas in that list. How fucking miserable.
I could.
What's worse than one Captain America? 5.
There is one thing about it that I think the only reason why I haven't got hate mail for it yet, either across the table or otherwise, and there's only one reason. It's because one of the things I did with this list is I purposely picked a lot of characters that don't get a lot of love. I'm putting Cable down every time. I'm putting Iron Fist down almost every time. And so people are going, oh, look, Iron Fist on the table. Yeah, this will be what a sport. And then they go to kill Iron Fist. They go, I can't kill Iron
Fist.
Such
a great guy.
Yeah.
And he tries to
go, I can't kill Iron Fist. You're like, no, you're not. And Iron Fist on turn 4, and I win. And you're like, oh, shit. I needed that activation. Yeah, you did. But you don't have it anymore. And they go, well, okay. So I think that's the reason why I don't have hate mail. Is because I'm purposely playing these kind of what are they called? Black sheep characters. They're obviously purposeful, but they're not played very often. And so so people are giving me that gimme. I'm playing with a handicap, but I'm absolutely not. I'm absolutely... I meant to do this.
So, looking back at the list you've played with what we've been talking about, is there anything that stands out obviously as a returning factor of your most favorite list that you played?
Wait, say again? Explain that.
So, you think of your favorite list that you played in the game. Of those lists, is there a, reoccurring factor, like a standout obvious aspect of that list that permeates through all of them?
Yes. Being able to move my character without a movement action.
Mobility. Tempo lists where you get action economy.
Yes. Action economy is one of those things that I've found that if I don't have it in my list, I immediately start hating it. It's one of the reasons why I got out of Kingpin so fast. As I was like, man, none of these models move themselves, and I am so mad about that. I hate spending an action on a movement when I didn't want to. And this list is full of out of action movement.
Do you think that might be an aspect of you have poor placement, or do you think it's more of just you just dislike the fact that you have to spend half your actions on a move when your opponent walks away from you?
Yeah, it's 100%. I want. There's nothing that bothers me more than having to, because there's a D scenario and my gun is range 4, I can't possibly interact with you or whatever. I hate that. I hate that there's a model over there that I can't interact with in any way. I can't contribute in any way. My model just has to sit here and double shake. That's what they're gonna do. Ugh, I hate that. But when
just take range 5 guns.
Well, we have to have range 5 and place, which is what Cable has. Like, I'm not kidding. Mm-hmm. This is one of the reasons why I love Cable, is he actually gets to contribute to the other D while he's on the back D.
He said it. He said the magic words. I love Cable.
I do love it.
On a D, on a B, you can be on a medium base with range 4, and you can shoot the other point.
Yes, and that's fine. But even then, I would rather have Hawkeye, because Hawkeye gets to move himself, and he's range 5.
No, I don't. I like Hawkeye. I think he's criminally underplayed. That guy is good.
Yeah. So everything like that is something that I don't think I'll ever be able to get away from, unless I went. I'll tell you, this is the one scenario in which I'm okay with a lack of movement, and that is with rapid fire, because your one action turns into 2 combat actions, and it feels like. Mm-hmm. It feels like you had a pseudo charge, right? Even though you have 1 less dice, you're still shooting twice, and then that feels okay. But if the model doesn't have rapid fire or movement ability, it better be really good at something else.
You really should play Punisher.
I loved Punisher with Shadowlands Daredevil. I think I would like him in this list too. I love Punisher. He's great. You don't have to work hard for me to love Punisher. That guy. Yeah. He's one of those models, kind of like Iron Fist. He's one of those models people go, oh, cute, you're playing Punisher, and they don't pay him any attention, and then he just clocks people. I don't know what it is about the Punisher, and there's a couple characters like that in the game. When you put down Luke Cage, everyone's like, I gotta kill Luke Cage. Oh, that motherfucker's gotta go. Oh, well, he's gotta go. But when you put down some characters, some of those 3-point characters, if you set them down, your opponent goes, whatever. Like
Crossbones.
Yeah, like Crossbones. He might not, but Crossbones legitimately won't do anything.
Drax.
Yeah, Drax is actually a good. That is a really good example. Oh, it's just Drax. He's past his prime. Like, there's so many models that are better than Drax. He can't be good.
Yeah.
And then you see him, no matter the cost, and you're like, "Cool, he just ate me." You're like, "Yeah, he ate you," or he threw your model into another model and you lost the point too. Like, there's so many things he could do. And another one of those models that you don't respect until all of a sudden you're lost because you didn't respect them. There's a couple models like that.
He attacked my Hulkbuster with 13 dice once. I was like, can you fucking stop it? I had to, what was it? I had to recal to stay alive, I believe. Yeah, I had to recal to stay alive. He hit Hulkbuster for like 11 damage, just straight in one shot.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, he was angry. He had Vengeance plus Titan Killer. I believe he only had 1 hit point too, because I rolled bad and left him on 1, and I was so pissed. And then he got Death's Decreed while injured. It was just like, oh my god, like, Sky, will you fucking please calm down?
Honestly, though, like, how many times have you rolled like a bucket of dice at something from those one-time kind of rolls and rolled shit? Like, so many times. Yeah, it seems like the only time I ever spike is on Grunts.
6 dice attacks.
Grunt
no, it's weird. It's 6 dice attacks.
Really?
And I don't know why. I almost never spike on 5 dice or 4 dice. And my big ones only ever roll below average. But 6 dice attacks, I'll roll usually bad, but then I'll just get the occasional 8. I'm just like, I don't know. Like, it's just sometimes it happens.
You know what helps? Reality Gem.
That's true.
Don't take the bait.
Talk about a mechanic I want to see go away. This is a side topic. Skulls counting as things. Like, I don't want that to happen.
That sounds like a topic on Jeopardy. I'll take skulls counting as things for 200 gem.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm pretty much over that.
Been facing too much Scarlet Witch lately?
Yep, that's it. No, I think there's a lot of things you can do mechanically, and I think just unfortunately skulls, I don't know why it rubs extra hard, but it's just like, I'd so much rather see Pierce or count blanks or any of that. Like, skulls, it's like, okay, but like, why does everything get to count? Like, it shouldn't count. I understand, like, some models, but I think they started off in a good spot where they're like, skulls count. And I'm like, okay, but then they turned into crits. Skulls being crits, not okay. Skulls counting, questionable.
Well, it's not even called a skull. It's called a fucking failure.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's the confusing part about the game.
Like, it's rolled 2 failures, so that's do nothing pisses me off more too than it's like Malekith rolls and he's like, skull in a block, and then he rolls the explosion, blocks another one. I'm just like, you went from 1 to 3 because of your dumb interaction. Like, fuck off. I hate it. I hate it. I don't know what it is though. Like, just if people roll crits on defense or dodges against me, they succeed every fucking time. Because I'll look up, I'll be watching their dice, like, okay, throw the size 3 and you have to block 2 or you die. They roll just a singular crit. I'm like, all right, well, they're going to live. I just look away. And they always block, like, every fucking time. Anyway. Yeah, I think a lot of people should explore the game more, not because they might not know their playstyles, but I think playing other playstyles will enhance your understanding of the game. That's why I jump around so much. I like playing lists like 3 or 4 times and then moving away from it just after I've learned the lesson I wanted to learn.
I will say that I started the conversation with my journey to this list because I had to be really persistent before I found a version of this that I would actually appreciate enough to play more than once. Because how many times did I start a Web Warriors list and I was like, surely this will do its job, and I played it once. I was like, no, it's just just the most bitter taste in my mouth. Ugh, I just instantly hated it. Criminals, the same thing. I just like, ugh, this is terrible, and I immediately threw it away. It was repugnant to me. Which is so weird that it would be so.
That's because you couldn't change your mindset of what you were supposed to be doing.
Right.
So your entire game was just fighting against your natural instinct.
Yeah.
And so I would say that that's partially an issue because if you don't have that strong understanding of that aspect of the game, that probably means you're not looking at your games in the proper light. Like you're looking through them through a skewed sense of what your opponent's trying to do. And which will lead you to make mistakes.
And that's where I was going with the story. The reason why is because I played against Quentin at the last big event, our local qualifier for LVO. I've watched Aaron, a couple times, but had the opportunity to sit down with Aaron against really good players, play this little, tete-a-tete where they're not, with all their actions are movement and interactions. That's how the only reason they're spending powers to interact with tokens. And I realized after enough of those events that there was another part of the game I wasn't playing, and so I needed to find some way to be satisfied with the models I was taking and the experience I was having enough to really explore this myself. And so I'm now doing it, and now I just got to decide: is this satisfying enough for me to keep playing, or should I say, this is nice, not for me. Let's go back to Shadowlands Daredevil, quote unquote.
All right. Does anybody have any other thoughts on this topic? Alrighty. Let's move on. We have another small topic today we're going to talk about. This is just kind of going into our collection of our turn 0 and do's and don'ts. This is just something everyone needs to be doing, and it's basically just paying attention to priority. Primarily taking a moment at the start of every round and counting the activations, and then trying to predict models that may or may not get dazed or lose their activation for some reason, and planning out all the permutations of who's going to have priority on the following turn. Planning out how many models you're allowed to daze, how many models you can give activated tokens to, and how many times you can potentially pass, and then understanding what repercussions that will have throughout the turn. Also, it could come down to simple as identifying that your opponent has a grunt, and so the number of models is not equal to the number of activations. I know personally this is actually something that I do, but I don't do it correctly. I basically wait till the turn's half over and then I start looking. And if I had looked earlier in the turn, it wouldn't have bit me as hard as it did. And so I think it's important to take some time in the power phase and do that.
I always find it that I start the turn, I black out, I wake up, I have no idea what's happening, and then I go, oh shit, this is horrible for me.
Yeah, and Blackout Jeremy is not friendly to normal Jeremy.
I'm going to give you guys a quick example just from the game I played. Without all the specifics, turn 2 or 3, I have Prio, scores about tied. I have my Bill on his back Delta, we're playing Spider Portals, with an extract and 1 health remaining. On the right, he has his bullseye against my Emma and Miss Marvel. That's what's pertinent. Most people, I think, would take a look at the board state and say, Bill is going to die. I need to do something with Bill. However, nothing you do with Bill is going to alter the end state for that turn, because Bill's going to die. He's going to give up his extract. So unless his action is to double move away to be within mission objective range, using Bill to get damage on a model isn't going to affect descoring that turn. Now it might have long-term effects, but for this turn, it's not going to affect it. Whereas dazing Bullseye, picking up his objective, will. Does that make sense? Anyway, I guess my point is, don't look at a model and say, "Oh, I only have 1 health left. I must activate this." Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. It's often the right call, but sometimes it's not, and I think that's a trap people get into. Mm-hmm. So I didn't activate Bill. It turns out Miss Marvel can't kill Bullseye with a throw and a big and then 2 strikes. But I still think it was the right call.
Yeah. I would say that one of the things I think we've mentioned it here before, that it is as soon as your opponent puts an activated token down on the model, that should increase your, that's like blood in the water. You should be so excited to kill that model after they put an activation token on them, because they've given you fair game to KO or daze them and not lose priority, right? As soon as they put an activation token down. And a lot of players don't do that. They just look at the amount of health left on the board and they go, oh, I can kill this. I can't kill this with my single activation that I have permission to do. And so I'm only going to do the things that will lead to KOs and dazes. But there is a serious game to be constantly looking at where did your opponent put that activated token and giving your attention to that if at all possible. At the same time, this is where I'm jumping off of yours, Aaron, if you, as a savvy player, you can play that same game on your side as well, where you can go, okay, well, Beta Ray Bill isn't really worth anything with his 1 health right now. He's not able to contribute to the game in a meaningful way. So one way he could contribute is by me not putting an activation token on him, and so he gains me priority next turn, because they will likely take that 1 health away. And since they will take that 1 health away, as long as I never put an activation token on it before they take that 1 health away, he just, with his 1 health, bought me priority. What an awesome use of that 1 health on Bill.
I concur.
And it's a little bit deeper than that, too, because sometimes if you've done the counts and you understand the interactions and the opportunities, it's more than that. Because, like Parker said, the check mark is like the safety net of I can just attack you and not worry about losing priority. But if you know the counts and like what's going to happen, you can actually get away with attacking people that haven't attacked yet. That's why it's so important to know the counts. And also on the backside, like sometimes you don't want to have priority. It's very rare, but sometimes it's that situation. Like if you've both got a lot of control effects and you're fighting over like the researcher, it's like last activation is going to win that scenario. And so sometimes you're trying to intentionally give it up. And so you're like, can I like set up to daze one of your people to give you priority? That way I get to go last. Like sometimes that's very useful. Not to mention also, secret tech here, don't tell anyone, guys. You can daze your own people to get priority. And don't tell anyone. Have you ever thought about doing that, Aaron? Like you have a model that's got like 1 hit point, and you're just like, I'm going to throw this car into them. Like, go to sleep. Like, I need the priority token.
I think I've done it once. It was a long time ago.
Mm-hmm. Oh, no, I did this beam attack and I accidentally hit my own person. And it sucks. They only had 1 hit point.
I mean, I can imagine that being useful for sure.
100%.
Right,
and you'll scenario, catch people. Sure. You'll really catch people. They're just like, wait, what? And then they realize what happened. They're like, oh, no.
This is so
and it's like, go ahead and activate your last model. I'll go next. And you're like, oh
no.
Has anyone here ever lost activation or lost priority because they passed to somebody who could do double activation?
No.
Okay. I have had that happen for me before, where I was playing Sin and Crossbones, and somebody said pass, and I go, activate Sin. And they go, okay.
Immediate activate Sin.
Immediate activate Crossbones. And they go, oh. It's like it is
another
yours.
Perfect example of knowing the number of activations possibly remaining and not walking into a trap.
Right. It's one of those things that your opponent, if you have, who is it? It's Sin, Crossbones, Corvus Glaive, and Proxima Midnight.
No, not Proxima Nebula. What did I say? Proxima and Corvus.
Yeah, Proxima Midnight. Those are the
Follow Me. Be aware if your opponent has Follow Me.
Yes, Follow Me is another one of those.
I think those are the only double activate ones.
Follow Me is often used to conserve priority, though, because usually you have priority and you want to really down a model, but you want 2 activations, so you stay, on the right side of the priority count.
Some people just use it to steal priority in even numbers.
Yeah, that's true. If you're even, it doubles for that.
Yeah.
We mentioned this before the podcast starts. but does anyone else here throw away priority like as a game plan? Like, because I do. I will just be like, oh, I have priority now, but I'm losing it. I want to daze 3 characters. So here we go.
Yeah. It's usually for those huge turns. And part of it is usually knowing in advance where you're, like, what your opponent's going to have available as their best activation on the following turn. Mm-hmm. So if you can, like, let's say you've got a really important model like Malekith and they've got, like, Magneto, not leaving your fucking Malekith right next to Magneto on the turn you give up priority is obviously really important.
A little bit.
Just a bit, yeah. So use Butcher of Thor's place out on the far side of somebody, so that you're not just in Death Alley there. Mm-hmm. And so there's definitely, it is worth giving a priority for those big splash turns, but just try to plan ahead and know you're giving it up and try and curve that a bit, like land next to your bodyguard, do what you can, to soften the blow.
Right.
I would personally really like to see a change to the way priority works. I just don't know how you would do it. I think some kind of bidding system every turn, you can bid power to try and get priority from your opponent or something. But nothing's more demoralizing than just watching the doom spiral of priority just kill you over time.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah. Just well, if I could just get priority, I could win this game. But nope, I'm just never going to get to activate any of my important models when they matter.
They just need Shatterpoint's wounded system.
I don't disagree with that at all. I would love to see that wounded system come over.
I would say I have played a number of lists that I went into it. I think it's been long enough now that I forgot, but I think I went on a tear where I played 20 plus games knowing I could not have priority because I was playing 5 or 6 models in every game. And I really knew that it would be odd for me to have priority. And I would say there is something kind of, when you're building that into your list, you just know you're going to have a lot of redundancy or a lot of the same thing happening more than once, so you don't mind if you're never having priority. There's something kind of comforting about that. You're just priority, priority.
But it's different when you're I have 6 to your 3, so you can just layer redundancies in place. So it's well, you'd have to daze 3 people to really shut me down. But then when you're okay, well, I have 4 and he has 3,
then it feels
and
terrible.
It's just okay, I just don't have the resources, and it's almost always because they went narrower than you expected, or just someone spiked a dice roll by accident. You're oh, I guess I'll rapid fire this guy. And then you're just 5 hits. And you're no! Oops. Yeah. I guess you have priority now.
Yeah. Anybody out there going, I don't want to play the priority game. I want to learn the other parts of the game first. Just play a really wide faction on purpose or an affiliation on purpose and see if that gets you into some parts of the game before you start playing with priority and trying to understand that better.
I wonder if they could do number of threat value on board, lowest threat value automatically gets priority every turn. Would that be breakable? Could you just play a point down to have priority the whole game, or until you kill someone at least?
I think it's got to be breakable. I don't know how to break it off the top of my head, but as soon as you say your the points or
the important thing though, it would scale better later in the game. Because oh, you've killed 3 of my models. Okay, well now I get priority now. There's nothing you can do. I have priority.
Right, because you have all of your models, and
right.
I have.
Or just as soon as you kill one, I'm down a person, I get to go first now. But then you would take Okoye and try and get her killed, right? So I'm sure it'd be abusable. I'm just spitballing stuff here. It just popped in my head.
Yeah, when they did that kind of thing with points, I think as soon as you tell me bidding with points or even during the game,
Power,
the points, I think of X-Wing, and I think of that again, we talked about this in the last cast. When you make a system like that and you put it in a game, you've created something else for people to game. And now there's a mini game inside the game about who can exercise the most control of the board with the absolute fewest points ever possible. And then
right, but then your whole advantage in that situation is you're saying, well, I played 4 points down. You're okay, well, thanks. Yeah. I was probably not going to priority anyway. Thanks a lot. Now I have a better chance. But I don't have an answer. This was just a fun idea I had.
Yeah.
If I had this is the better way to do priority, I'd be screaming it from the mountains, but I don't. Anyway, yeah. So definitely pay attention for priority. Make a plan. Stick to it. Unlike me in my last 2 games when I almost threw the game away because I was just like, I could Daze Blade, that's fine. It wasn't fine. It almost cost me the game both times.
It was no fine.
It was a negative fine.
No fine.
Anyway, that's going to round us out to our final topic. Parker, do you have a comic corner for us?
I do, and it's on brand with our other main topic today. It's a new comic that came out relatively recently, or I guess started at the end of last year, but it bled into this year, called All Out Avengers. There's only a few issues in it. I think there's 6 total, and I think they're making a compilation graphic novel if you want that. Of course, you can get it individually off of Marvel Unlimited or at your comic store. But All Out Avengers is a really awesome story. The writer is Derek Landy. The penciler is Greg Land, who I first watched or read some of his stuff in the Ultimates universe. And he is, I think his stuff is super cool because he loves like these really crisp, like characters, and the environments and the characters themselves are very realistic, like hyper realistic. The one thing that is not realistic about them is they don't have imperfections. They are statuesque, but they don't have the egregious, like masculine and feminine forms that a lot of comic artists like to do when they're trying to be more realistic. They really go off the walls with muscles and boobs, and he doesn't. He's very minimalist with that kind of thing. But the characters, they just look like the characters look gorgeous, literally and metaphorically. And the way he does action and movement and fighting in particular, the way he draws it, are fantastic. And the reason why I say this is some artists and some writers do a really terrible job of walking you through a sequence of action, and you kind of lose what's happening and you catch it later and you have to fill in the blanks yourself. Derek and Greg in this series does a great job, and some of the things are really action-packed and difficult stories to tell because every single one of these comics starts in media res. It starts with in the middle of the action. Something is happening. It's a world-ending event, a super hyper problem that the Avengers have to fix. Like at one point it's Doctor Doom, another one is the Red Skull has cloned himself, another one Spider-Man has gotten a word or wind of this device that can change your mind and your memories without you knowing it, and nobody can tell if it's Spider-Man or the Avengers that have had their minds affected by this. And Spider-Man thinks it's the Avengers think it's Spider-Man, and so it's Spider-Man versus the Avengers. And so it's like all of these like really interesting stories, but you never get a preamble. There's no build-up. There's no rising action. It's all right in the middle, right before the climax. And so a really interesting way to start every single comic story. And right after the Avengers solve the problem every time, they stop and they pause and they go, like, wait a minute, we just beat Doctor Doom again, we just beat the Red Skull again, we just figured out the problem with this device with Spider-Man had. How did we get here? And so at the same time that you are asking as a reader, you're asking why am I just dropped in the middle of the story? The Avengers stop and ask, why were we dropped in the middle of this? How does anybody remember being here? What? And so this repeats itself every single issue. This awesome story, this great little like vignette, of the Avengers solving a conflict, but yet there's this subtext, there's this subplot going on, running all together, which is why aren't the Avengers aware of what's happened to them, and why do these world-threatening events keep occurring? A big clue lies in the narration, which is not from any of their perspectives, and it's from this third party that is very, very interested in how the Avengers are doing in all of these situations, and is very proud of them and very excited for them, and the narrator keeps alluding to the problem that's coming and how this is going to help the Avengers. So there is some otherworldly super powerful force that keeps rewriting reality or restructuring the Avengers timeline to keep putting them in these dangerous situations to prepare them for something that we don't understand. Super cool story, right? Just like as soon as you hear it, like, well, that sounds awesome. I want to see how the Avengers deal with this. So it's all the Avengers you love. It's the Black Panther, Spider-Woman, Thor, Captain Marvel, Iron Man, of course, sundry of other characters show up and disappear as they're having to deal with these different problems. And I'm not going to spoil it for you, But my favorite moment by far was, Black Panther and Iron Man and Thor are all trying to use their science minds, their engineering capabilities, their technology, or Thor's just kind of like knowledge of the universe's feel for what's going on around him to try to piece together what's happening. And as soon as they try to reach it, it all just kind of falls through their fingers like sand, and they never seem to get a grasp on it, on purpose, obviously, whatever entity it is that's managing them. And every issue, Cap is just kind of silent about it, And then in the fourth issue, at the end of it, Cap speaks up, and he gives a speech, like an awesome Captain America speech, like "Don't fuck with the Avengers" kind of speech, and he says it directly to the reader, like he looks directly at the reader, and the whole time the Captioneer, whoever is this entity controlling, pulling the strings, is freaking out because Cap is talking directly to him, but he doesn't know how Cap is talking directly to him. And Cap explains how he's been manipulated before. He knows manipulation when he sees it, and he can't win. The Avengers, Avengers win, and whoever is the Captioneer is getting so freaked out, and it's wonderful because you're getting freaked out because very rarely in a comic is there a good reason for the character to look directly, through the fourth wall at you.
Some never-ending story shit.
Yeah, it is a really, really, really great story arc to bend the boundaries of what you can do as a reader of a story. So if this sounds fun and you just want to see a really cool Avengers arc, All Out Avengers is takes you up to the end of the arc where you actually find out who it is. And then there's another series that's starting up. I think it's already actually out the first issue is already out, where it's the Avengers, the Avengers is dealing with the entity's, challenge, and you get to find out who the entity is. But check it out. All Out Avengers. Really fun to read.
Cool. All right. Well, that's going to wrap it up for us this week. Hopefully you guys had fun listening to us talk. And this has been Brandon.
And Parker.
And Jeremy.
And Aaron.
And you just listened to It Was Never Worth It.
So what are we going to call this thing?
I got it. Okay. Incredible, new, fantastic, astonishing, mighty, original, uncanny, sensational podcast.
I'm just going to put down infamous.
That was much better than last time.
Whoa!
I don't know. The last time
like
was
that was
great.
That was pointed at me.
Yeah.
Rude.
No, I think it was great. What happened was great. That's what was great.
I left it in. I made sure it was in there.
Everything happens for a reason in life, guys.
Mm-hmm.
The Lord doesn't open more doors than you can handle, or something.
I actually thought about editing it to make it worse than it was.
Oh,
And so,
God.
I don't even, he claps before I say one. But I was like, it's already so good.
Dude, it's already really bad.
Yeah. Because this time when we were clapping, obviously there's a delay, but when we clapped, everyone clapped in unison exactly at the same time on the first one. I was like, oh, that was a good one.
Yeah, that was nice.
All right, Aaron. You came fresh from the fields of battle in the leagues of TTS.
I did. Week 5.
Do you want to give us a rundown?
I
of who you
will.
were playing?
I will give you a rundown. The man's name is Dave Lennox. Relatively new, but 3-1 in the league so far. He had played Criminal Syndicate his first 4 weeks in the league with Kingpin in every list. So, if I wanted to win the game, what should I do?
He's playing Kingpin?
Yeah.
You should score more points than him.
Sure.
Kill his guys. Good.
If I really wanted to be degenerate, I would play X-Men.
Mm.
I chose...
Oh, because you can change your lists.
Yeah, it's open rosters. I chose not to do that. I dropped the Hellfire list I've been playing just off and on casually for the past month or so. Spider Portals and Scrolls is what we ended up on, which is really weird if you've never played that before. Because Bill goes up to a point and he's like, if I pick up the scroll and move, then I can't flip the portal. If I flip the portal and get ported, I can't pick up the scroll.
That sounds awful.
Yes. So I have the cheeky Angela Eyes play where I take his scroll the first turn.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got my back scroll, and I got the left scroll, but then he robberyed me with Rhino. He went up 4-3, but used robbery to make it happen. Super back and forth game, but I end up just doing a lot of double moving, flipping points, and I pulled out 17-14.
Congrats.
Thanks.
Cool.
Way to beat up on a new guy. Maybe he'll just quit the game.
Oh, he was not being beat up on or super new. He was good. So he had MODOK. So his dice were so much better than mine. Oh my god. He one-shot Angela, or one activate with the fucking Rhino. Just like 5 dice. Take 4 damage. Now I'll Stampede. Now die. Okay. Does the same thing to Bill the next turn. I'm just like, all my guys are dead. And it took me 4 attacks and a car throw to daze Bullseye. Because of course.
Bullseye's your bane, man.
Oh my god. Like
If
every
anyone's
attack
ever-
of that dude. He's like, nope, parting shot. Nope, parting shot.
Yeah, I've had trouble with Bullseye before.
Oh yeah. No, and then Bullseye one-shots Marvel back. I'm like, okay, great. Miss Marvel, by the way. Yeah, the first 2 turns were really, really bad. But all the people he was dazing didn't have objectives. So I was able to go up 5-3 on turn 2 to go to an overall 8-7 just based on having the objectives. But let's say just highlights. Rhino had a neat play late in the game. Bill went into MODOK, needing to do 5 damage. God Hunter failed to kill him. He fell back and in-dommed the throw. That was kind of cute, to where I couldn't bring him back to me.
Mm-hmm.
So then I had to summon the storm and failed to. I did 1 damage instead of 2. So anyway, I leave MODOK on 1. But there's no bodyguard anywhere near him. So I'm like, okay, Angela will kill him, Frenzy, I'll get shit done. Instead, he kills Toad, picks up Toad's objective, stampedes over, goes into Bill, flips over Bill, and stands exactly right inside of 2 away from MODOK. We're talking like complete left D to like his far back D, like way behind it. Like they're just doing typical Rhino things, right? But it was just impressive. And like I said, this is not. He may be a new player, but he's a good new player. To see that line of play, and he had his cake and got to eat it. He was like, no. I want to flip the portal. I want to kill Toad. I want to do some inconsequential damage to Bill and be within 2 of MODOK when I'm done with all this. And he pulls it off. So just nice to see. Anyway, unless you have questions, I'll leave it there.
Okay.
How's
Do you
your
feel
son
like?
doing?
Oh, good.
He is 2-2. I don't know when he plays this week.
2-2.
I-
He's off the team.
Off the team.
I mean, you're gonna have to tell him. But yeah, 2-2. Really?
And I don't like awkwardness, so I'm gonna need you to tell him it was your decision.
Okay. Is he doing better or worse than the other teammates in the league? I just had the question.
I only have 2 losses.
Okay. Jeremy?
I haven't lost in TTS.
Okay. Well, then I guess he's off. You're right.
I mean, based on facts and data.
Is that 4-1 for you, Aaron?
It is 4-1.
Nice.
My next game will be cuts or not. Now, I have not played games in a week. Like, it's been all Diablo all the time, so it's just me just sitting down and playing a game. Which is, I guess, kind of how a league is supposed to be. This is just a league. It's not necessarily a tournament, even though everyone takes it that way.
Yeah.
I would honestly ride all emotions and like everything on it. Every game is your value. Like that's what you're worth.
Okay,
So
sure.
I mean, yeah, like
Well, then
currently,
I'm about 80% worth.
yeah. I mean,
Jeremy, I'm just
currently you should
confirming.
feel
Your opinion is that you're like everything. Your ego, your skill at the
Yes.
game, like all comes down to the most recent 3 games you played.
yeah. You could do better, but you're doing pretty good. You know,
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't say you should be ashamed, but you're close. That's
Okay.
all I'm telling you.
I
can't even remember
can see
the last
shame
time I lost.
in my coming toward me. Yeah.
All I'm saying is be careful. That's all I'm
All
saying.
right, so let's all go around the table and explain how our recent games have gone then.
Oh God. Pass. I haven't played in a month.
Hard pass. Whose models are these? I don't even know.
So work stuff has happened. Speaking of games,
We've been waiting for this story.
yeah. So life and times of Jeremy and his amazing times at work. So I've had about a month and a half of reprieve. Somehow things have lined up, and everything's been good. Until I have a cook who is taking a month vacation and going to Mexico. That was planned for some time. I knew it was going to happen. So I was like, okay, good. I'll see you later. I'll cover that. That's fine. It's my job. Great. I had that all lined up. And then all of a sudden I get a text message on Friday, a few days ago, that the other cook from Mexico, who lives here now, but his family's from Mexico, his dad had an accident, which turns out was a heart attack, in Mexico. He jumped in his truck and drove to Mexico. I don't know if you've done the math on this, but that now
sounds like 2 people.
2 cooks who will be in Mexico starting at the end of next week. I don't have a return date for one of my cooks who is in Mexico. The other one will return in approximately 1 month.
Oh, shit.
I have an idea.
Yeah.
What if you just move the restaurant to Mexico? Then there'll be 3 cooks there.
No, there would only... Oh, because I would be
too.
there.
Yeah, you'd be there. So then you could like make fiestas and stuff.
Yeah, so I was like, well, shit. So
quick question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can I cook while I play Diablo?
Well, certainly everybody else does, their phone the entire time they're at work.
Sign me up.
Wait. That means you can only play Diablo Immortal while you cook.
Yeah, that's a trap.
No. Hard pass. I was in. Okay, go ahead.
What was I gonna say? Yeah, so like, it's just so now he's in Mexico, and he's like one of these guys. He's probably 10 or 15 years older than me, so like 85, 90 years old, and he's got one of these
Aaron age.
He's got one of like the old-timey smartphones, which are like smartphones, but they're like when you
see... Like a BlackBerry?
Yeah, kind of, sort of. When you see people that have them, like, their options aren't the same as yours, and they're a little bigger, and it's just, like, fucked up. You're like, dude, can you just get a real smartphone so I can help you with this thing? So anyway, he's in Mexico now with it, and apparently he can't, like, text normally or call people unless they call him or text him while he's in Mexico. And his service doesn't work there, except he can accept messages or text messages and then text you back. So he's communicating with me, but in this weird sideways fashion, which at no point have I received information of when he plans on returning. I'm like, dude?
All right, so how many cooks do you need to cover normal hours? Like, assuming no one's working overtime.
I need 4.
4, okay. How many do you currently have?
Okay, so I need... I need 3. So I need 3. So
okay.
Currently I have 2, and then one of them's leaving to Mexico, so that leaves me with 1.
Okay.
Then I cover, so that will.
So that's easy. 2. I have an easy fix.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
You just work 120 hours a week, and everything's fine. Easy fix.
Right, but I feel like somehow in the last year I've asked for this in kind of a backward, sideways way, because there was at points where I said, I can't do 2 buildings like this, but I'm certain I can do 1.
Oh, so you said that you could handle... This would never be a problem if you had only 1 building to worry about.
Now, realistically...
And so now you can't ask for help because you made your bed.
I mean, I guess. I mean, right. Okay.
How about this? Just lots of pizza days.
I mean, that's kind of what it comes down to. It's like, I'll just make the menus and they'll be fucking simple, and I don't really care. Like, there's only so much I can do. It's just, I knew that a shoe was going to fall off at some point. Something was going to happen, but whatever. So things got interesting. So there you go. There you have it. Life and Times of Jeremy.
Yeah.
I also blame Thanos for that. Maybe that's what happened. Maybe the snap took my cooks away.
I don't think so.
No? All right, I bought my LVO tickets. Who else?
I'm in.
Nice. I got someone to room with.
That's good, because rooms are not cheap.
My wife sleeps naked. Is that okay?
Well, I mean, good news. So do I.
Camaraderie.
Secondly, I don't ever sleep by myself. Hopefully that's not a problem.
No. I said thruple. I wasn't more descriptive.
Oh, Lord. Yeah, so got that all locked up, and it's kind of weird because all of a sudden I'm in some sort of mad panic of like, I guess I gotta buy all these tickets now. Okay, I just bought the Kansas City tournament thing, and
well, LVO will sell out.
Yeah.
And then you just get a grab bag if you buy it before the end of the month for Show Me. So
yeah, I needed to do Show Me. I was gonna do Show Me a long time ago, but I went to do it, and they're like, "Hey, I'm gonna need a credit card right now," and I was like driving or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. I think that happened to a lot of people because we had like a scary low number of people signed up, and so I sent out a bunch of messages. I'm like, "Will you please buy a ticket if you're coming?"
I wasn't
and
ready.
then all of a sudden, everyone's registering.
We weren't ready. Is everybody enjoying Diablo in all of its glory?
Parker's not.
I haven't got to yet.
He doesn't have a computer that can run it.
That's true.
He doesn't have a life that can run it.
That's also true.
There are 2 things preventing me from playing, yes. But I'll be playing.
Is one of them a podcast?
One of them is currently a podcast. At this exact moment, yes.
The other one will be BattleNet not allowing you to log in. Good luck.
I'm sure he's already confirmed that's okay.
Oh, it's already downloaded. It's in the chamber, ready to be fired off.
So I sent an email to Blizzard yesterday, letting them know that there was some kind of like internet terrorist that was signing up, and he goes by One Who Parks, and so they're going to ban your account. It's going to be great.
Don't do that. They'll believe you. Don't do that.
Would you rather I just swat you?
Don't do either of those things.
Oh God,
did
we both swat him already?
Not good.
Oh, did you already?
Did we both swat him at the same time?
Parker, you're getting double swatted.
I thought today was my day. Tomorrow?
Please don't swat me. I don't want to be swatted. I don't want it. Don't do it.
Oh, you know what we could do? Social services. They'll go too.
That feels like that's getting dark.
I'm just saying. I mean, we got to make sure we check up on them.
Mm-hmm. A wellness check.
Yep.
All right. So back to business. We have a couple topics I've kind of pulled aside. Aaron, do you have anything specific you want to talk about?
No.
Okay.
He only cares about winning.
Yeah.
The size of his Blood Bowl trophies.
I actually have a question.
They are rather large.
Yeah. And I think this is going to be a
graphic.
No.
Oh.
I think it's a good conversation, specifically because I feel like I have finally experienced both sides of the game, which is the very interactive, let's fight all the time and let's roll lots of dice and let's, do that ebb and flow. Versus now, I'm playing a very, don't touch me, I'm just going to go around and interact with objectives. I don't, I'm going to interact with you minimally. Maybe I'll attack you sometimes. List. And I just have, have we already talked about this before? Or what is your perspective, or what do you think is the best way to play the game? Or maybe the most interesting way to play the game? I think those are 2 different questions. But
I think we talked about individual people's play styles.
Okay. Because I feel bad doing it. That's
it does. It feels oddly like you're not playing the game, which is odd because you're literally playing the game more than your opponent is.
Exactly. That is exactly the topic. Can we talk about that?
Sure.
I would like
if we combine it with big guys, and my counter to that.
Oh Jesus Christ! Please no.
Okay.
I don't think you understood. We sat here for 30 minutes waiting for you. It was actually closer to an hour. Mm-hmm. But the majority of the time, we were just listening to Jeremy rant about how some models need to not exist.
Models. Model.
Yeah, some model. It's okay that Jeremy jams Immortal Hulk everyone's throat, but he plays like 3 whole games against someone he doesn't like, and now we have to change the meta for it. It's okay.
Sure.
Jeremy's never going to speak to me again.
I think there is space in the conversation to talk about that if there is like a third option, I suppose. Or if that's or if you believe that falls into one of the other 2 options,
so,
maybe that's an argument.
Well, I'll tell you what I'm going to say now, and we can re-say it later.
We don't have to. Go ahead.
Well, okay. Well, if you think it's not pertinent to the conversation, then I won't bring it up later.
No, I think I would like for you to challenge me, and I'll see if I agree with the challenge or not.
Okay, we'll see.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to talk about play styles again.
No, I was just going to say It's more like feel good. But yeah, I guess the two.
All right. Well, I'm going to change the topic name to Parker Learns to Play the Game.
He learns to feel good.
We'll just leave it at that.
I know how to make myself feel good.
That's good, Jeremy. I'm glad you know that.
I didn't know if people were listening or.
All right, let's get into it, and we can talk about Diablo after.
All right, we'll get into it nice and deep.
Yeah, nice and deep, like.
Mm-hmm. Really explore the space.
Well, that's not good.
Mm-hmm. Depends on what they like.
Do we have any news?
None.
No news.
No news is good news.
I feel like, despite us, AMG is now releasing news on Thursdays, and it's become very annoying lately.
Yeah.
We did it.
Sure did.
I think that one felt pretty good on the whole.
It did. It was nice. It was chipper. It was mostly chipper.
We kept all of the profanity and like just complete toxic talk out of the podcast.
That's not easy. That was not an easy.
It's pretty hard. It's pretty hard.
I mean, yeah.
So anyway, Diablos. Aaron, how many of the Altars of Lilith have you found? 7.
50-ish.
Oh, those are rookie numbers.
Okay, sorry.
Jeremy, how many have you found?
I don't care.
I don't care.
I honestly don't even. I don't even know where to look for them. Like, I've found some, but I don't even know where that number would be at. I don't care.
Oh, okay. Well, if you cared, you could go into your map, and then there's a little summary bar of each region above at the top of the map, and it'll show you how many like dungeons and altars and stuff you have in each zone.
Yeah, I don't know.
The cool thing is they actually give you like rewards for doing the Easter egg stuff, so it's actually worth it to go find them.
Yeah, I found a few. I'm basically wandering through the main quest, and as I go, and if I find a dungeon or something's on my way, I dig into there. But
yeah,
I'm just kind of quest lining it right now.
For sure. One piece of, if you don't want to look them up, but you do want like a leg up in finding them, as someone who's found all of them, I can tell you, it's almost exclusively somewhere that's hard to see on your screen. And so if there's like a big pillar that's visually in your way, it's probably behind that. Like they just try and sneak them in plain sight, except then they put shit in front of them.
So what I want is for someone to create a product that tells me in which subzone they're in.
And then you can just go look.
Yeah, like I want to know, like, so I know there's like 33 in Fractured Peaks, right? But there's probably 10 to 12 subzones. Some have 1, some have 3. Like, so I'll be honest, I cheated for Fractured Peaks. I was like, let's just get 4 now and we're done. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do it for real for the rest of them. So we're going to see how that goes. But if I'm down to 3 left and I'm looking around across the entire thing, it's going to be quote unquote impossible, right?
Right. Like you're just never going to find it. I don't recommend doing that as someone who has looked it up. Like they are in places you will never go to more often than not. Now, some of them are fairly easy to find. And if you just want to find the ones you can find, that's cool. I'm not telling you not to, but just there's a lot of them. They're just like, okay, there's literally no reason to ever come here. Like,
well, I'm happy to take an afternoon or an evening and see, like, we're going to explore all of, let's say, Fractured Peaks.
I'm just going to go through this
and I'm going to see, which ones I can get to. And I'm just going to kill mobs along the way and get XP and everything. But that'll be my goal for the evening. My problem is when I'm down to 2 left, I'm like, well, fuck, I just searched the whole goddamn place. At that point, I'd be like, nope.
I honestly thought it was surprisingly difficult just to reveal all of the map. Like, you're like, okay, well, this area is obviously done, and there's like this little clipped corner that you have to go. Like,
I kind of like
that.
Come
on, really? Like, I dislike that a lot because some of the you'll like cross a bridge and then it will reveal like 8% of the entire map, and you're like this huge chunk, and like the other one's like I literally can't even see it. I'm zoomed in. Like, how was this an area? It's so stupid.
The good thing is to get your max rewards for that renown, you don't have to actually find everything in that zone. So you can get to most of it, and you'll max the rewards minus the small stuff from the Altars of Lilith.
Yeah, but my eyeball math, you have to do 90% of everything in a zone to get it.
Yeah.
Which is 9 out of 10 dungeons, 9 out of 10 altars, 9 out of 10 side quests, like everything, and 90% of the map, everything, and you should get all 5.
Yep.
But a lot of that, like, you don't need the 5th rank till later. Like, obviously, like, you don't even get it until, like, realistically level 50 or 60.
True. You should not worry about this until after 50.
Right.
I need it right now, and I'm mid-50s.
The third point is very important. The third tier of renown is very important for all 5 because you get extra skill points. You'll get access to new talents and stuff.
Yep.
And so you definitely want those. But the 4 and 5, you can definitely wait till after you're like already epic level. I've heard that Sorcerer falls off late game, which seems to be true just because I think they're really intended to be group characters and not because if a Sorcerer can survive against the hardest mobs in the game, what the hell is like the Druid and the Barbarian for? Like your survivability would be so off the charts in comparison that wouldn't even make sense. So I think that's why they fall off because you can't survive and also deal damage. But in a group, I think Sorcerers are really fun because they just magnify the damage of the whole party.
I make my own party. Leave me alone.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
I mean, currently, based on what I've heard from other people playing, I think the Barbarian's probably the best solo class. The Sorc is probably the best group class. The Sorcerer.
Oh.
And then the Necromancer is the best solo class that as long as you don't fight bosses.
It is tough.
But,
Boss fights are tough, man.
Bosses just kill all your minions and then you can't do any damage, is what I've heard is the issue. Because they just, all the ground effects just constantly pulse murder. They just pulse murder everything. And you're just like, okay, well, all I'm going to do the entire fight is summon my minions or just poke it. And it's going to take forever. The Sorcerer, like, you just have to run. Like, you summon your Flame Hydras and you just run. That's how you kill bosses. It's so stupid. I was like, if I didn't have, I just summoned 3 Wall of Fires under it. I drop my Flame Hydra and I run in circles and teleport and Flame Shield. That's all I can do. If I do anything else, I'm dead. Like, if I stand still to cast my fucking Builder, I'm dead. I'm like, okay, well, this is annoying.
So,
but then, oh, good.
I was going to say, so I see other people play when we do things like Hell Tides or Legion events. And they just come in and they just like rape mods left and right, or mobs. I'm like, okay, clearly I don't understand this game at all. Like, I'm doing fine.
Well, are they your level?
Yeah, they're like 58, something like that. They just come in and
say again.
Or are they 58 or are they like 50?
Like
there's
various.
A big difference.
Sure.
Okay,
I'm 58 for reference, so
yeah.
They're my level.
Okay. Well, I can tell you a lot of it is just if you apply vulnerable or not is like 90% of like the damage in the game right now. It seems very weird.
Sure. I'm just saying, like, the Sorc will come up and they'll like cast a bunch of freezing shit and mobs will just explode, and I'll be like, okay. Yep. And then they'll just do it through an entire pack, and I'm just following behind, collecting the loot, really.
Yeah, no, I just cast Frost Nova, and everything in the Frost Nova dies.
Yeah.
As part of Frost Nova. And then it's like, but meanwhile, I cast Meteor, and it does like 10% of someone's health. And I'm like, Fire Spect? I'm like, this clearly is not how the game should work. But yeah, unfortunately, if you want to deal damage to high-tier stuff, you need Vulnerable. And so the Rogue and the Sorcerer have the best access to it. But that being said, the Sorcerer has one skill that applies Vulnerable, and it's Frost Nova. And so your skill that's supposed to be your defensive spell does 95% of your damage. It's really annoying. Yeah, I tried to stay full Fire Spec as long as I could. I was just like, okay, well, I just can't kill anything anymore. So, like, I have full Fire Spec, and like to kill an elite took me a minute and a half. And now with Frost Nova, it takes 8 seconds.
Checks.
Yeah. Have you guys been having fun with it?
I think it's fantastic. I'm level 38, just kind of grinding away.
Yeah. I think it's really great as a just run around and explore stuff game. You don't have to be on rails, but if you're on rails, it's also fine. I think they did a really good job. I'm honestly impressed. I don't like to give Blizzard credit. I think they did a good job.
Yeah. After 3, I was really worried. I couldn't imagine where they could go, and I would be like, yep, that was the direction. But they really did dive in with kind of what has been successful with these other type games that are out right now, with this like open world, like just have fun, like go do whatever you want. But in the same sense of like, I absolutely hate like sandbox open world. Like I hate like
there's still enough stuff to do that you don't feel like overwhelmed, because it's still like there's still a wall, right? Like you can't just go wherever you want. You can't do whatever you want. There's a wall and there's an obvious like direction, but they did so many cool things that let you decide when, how, and where you do stuff. They did a really good job with that.
Yes,
it feels like you've already hit max level after like 20 levels of the game. And then the rest of it is just like, let's just see how far we progress. And so it becomes less about progressing and more about the stuff you're doing. And so you can stay focused on playing the game and less focused about the numbers.
I remember in the other, Diablo 2 and 3, or like especially 2, when you're like building or trying to build your character and get levels, you were like, okay, Jesus Christ, if I can just get to 20. If I could get to 20, I can finally get my skeletons.
It's like a new fucking game. Like, what the fuck is this? Like,
and then you could get to 35. And once you got to 35, you could finally put the armor on and blah, blah. It's like, no, this is completely different. And plus, this thing just pukes out gear. Like, shit just drops. Cool stuff drops all the time. Like,
so, are you playing on World Tier 2, Jeremy?
I'm playing as hard as I can without beating it. Yeah,
that'd be 2. So the gear just flatly drops at a whole nother scale every difficulty up. It's not like a percentage chance. So when you'll be able to get to Tier 3, assuming you're able to fight stuff at that level, you should immediately switch, because the gear that drops in Tier 3 is Sacred Gear, and Sacred Gear has like an extra level of abilities on everything.
Yeah.
And then same thing, Ancestral Gear drops in Tier 4. As soon as you can play on 4, you need to be playing on 4.
Sure.
Because it's just a whole nother level of gear. But other than that, like, it's just, you just play the game.
Yeah. Which is so different. Like, again, you never saw yellows and ambers, like, in Diablo 2. And, like, Diablo 3 was a little better than 2. But this one is
it doesn't feel like a massive grind fest. Like, because in 3, there was like maybe 2 hours of content if you rush through it, maybe, and then it's just like, well, now what do we do? You just do it again. Like, what? That's it? Yeah, just do it again. What will we do then? We do it again. You're like, okay, but now what? It's like, oh, they added new stuff to the game. What's in now? This really cool, interesting, deep thing called a box that they put you in, and you just fight stuff inside the box until the time runs out. And you're like, so what do we do after we do that? You just do that again. It's just like, that's the entire fucking game. It was just infinitely walk into a room and kill everything. It's just like, this is so fucking boring. But what are we fighting for? So we can get better gear. What are we going to do when we get better gear? Fight a harder room. You're like, this is so fucking stupid.
And by harder, it's harder by one adjective. They would just add an adjective in front of the guy. Just like, oh, no, this one is a thunder killer monster rapist, whatever it was. Like, it's And so now that it says thunder on it, you're really fucked, right? You're like, well, I guess.
What was it like what rift did you get to? 68. Oh, I got to 73. You suck. I'm like, what? Is the number just going to keep getting, like, what's the point?
Yep.
The number just goes up. Because where now it's like there's actually activities that you can go do. And it's a really good job of that.
Let me ask you this. So when you're, I don't know, in a party or whatever, like I say, when I logged in, they were fighting, and then Giant Ass's chest fell, and it got opened and shit poured out. Is it the same loot for everybody, and everybody just grabs it?
No. Everything you see on your stream is unique to you.
Okay, so you don't got to worry about that.
Right. And also don't worry about like stealing people's stuff. If you are in either close proximity or you affect one of the mobs, you all equally gain the full rewards of killing it. And so you're just helping them fight it. Because if you hit it and they hit it, you both get full XP and full drops.
God, yeah.
And so that's why group play is so great, because if you have 4 people on the screen, you're just doing 4 times as much.
Isn't there 4 times as many mobs?
The difficulty will effectively go up, but you'll just turn up the difficulty until your group can't handle it anymore. Like, you'll go, you can, like, there's these elixirs you get that will drop in the world, or you can craft them, and it turns one of the random dungeons into a nightmare dungeon, and there's tiers to it that go, like, all the way the fuck up. And so, like, I can probably do, like, a tier 5 nightmare dungeon, but, like, as a group, we were doing, like, tier 15, because there was 3 of us. And so we were running through tier 15 nightmare dungeons, which ups the scale. There's more elites. Everything's harder, but the drops are also better. And so it's kind of like using a rift on a dungeon. And so there's like actual objectives and things instead of just running in circles.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's so big that like it's hard to even understand what all there is. Like I didn't even know what dungeons were for like the first week. Like I was like, what the fuck is a dungeon? It's like, oh, it's just those doors you go into are basically a dungeon. I'm like, oh.
Yeah.
I thought it was like this big raid or something. I was like, no, it's just a dungeon. But yeah, I know a lot of the people I know are like they're timing the world bosses, like they're waking up in the middle of the night to fight the world boss, going back to sleep. Like it's like, dude, you need to calm down.
So what's a world boss? What the fuck is that?
Based on what world tier you're in, there is a big bad that spawns every 6 hours, and I'm not exactly sure where he spawns because I just teleport to the person that's there already. Usually when I do it, but it's just a big like group area thing. Like this big guy will spawn, and like everyone awake will usually run over and try and kill him, and then everyone gets rewards. He takes like 20 people to bring down sometimes.
Gotcha.
I want to say that the rarest crafting component I have and need more of is only from world bosses.
That's probably true. But he spawns every 6 hours, so you can kill him every 6 hours.
I've killed one.
Yeah. Oh, did you ever fail?
No.
Yeah. It's just you just gotta be on when it happens. Like it happened at it's like 7:40, I think, today. So it'll happen again at like, I don't know, 3 a.m.
Yeah, I'm not going to be timing it.
Sure. Right. But I mean, you can also just like look up when it happens. Like, oh, that's the time I'm awake. I'll do it at that time. But if you miss it and you're only playing the evenings, like that was your chance. So like you got to pay attention to it if you want.
Where is it posted at?
It's in game. It shows on the map. I don't remember what the symbol is. I think it's like the orange triangle shows like world events that are happening.
Yeah, but it doesn't show you like in the next 4 hours and 20 minutes a world boss will spawn here.
Yeah, once you get to within like an hour, I think it shows up. Just like the Hell Tides. The Hell Tides, it will show you the timer and where it's going to be and everything.
Yeah. More fun stuff for in-game, Jeremy, when you get there.
Yeah. Cool.
I do want to say that their like epic level endgame content for like leveling up is the best I think I've seen a company do it. And so remember in Diablo 3, which is like, you've gained a Paragon level. You just got like 1% increase to stats, and it was like boring as fuck. Now you have like a new skill tree that opens up, and you get 4 Paragon points per level, and you get them intermittently during the level. So you don't have to wait for the full level to get all 4 at once. You get them at the 25% increments, which is pretty cool. So you're always getting stuff. So you always feel like you're gaining. But then it's basically this big grid, and you put a point in a box, and then it opens up a pathway to the next box. And then each one of the points has different little bonuses. And so you have to build a pathway through this system of all the different bonuses you want to buy. And then there's like synergy bonuses for these areas you can do. And you can get glyphs that fit into the pages and then buff everything around them. And then based on which glyphs you choose, they give you other bonuses as well. Kind of like passive abilities.
Good lord.
And then you level up your glyphs.
And then you can level up your glyphs. And then you can, if you actually get to the point where you go off the page, you get another page that you can attach to it, and you just keep going. And it turns into kind of like Path of Exile, from what I understand, except instead of active abilities, just a bunch of passives. So like you can just like keep buying stats, or you can buy like plus 10% physical damage, and you can buy like all these little things. But it's cool because you get to like custom build your epic levels, is however you want.
Yep.
And it's interactive, and you get to decide it. But also, if you just don't care, you can just put points in the boxes, and it doesn't matter. You guys coming up tomorrow?
I will be up.
I also will be.
Nice. I'll be there too.
I will be. I just found out.
Ooh.
Right before the podcast. I'm going to be there.
Parker's back in town. Parker's back in town.
I'll be there to not commit any models. I'll just be walking around different points and picking up things and walking away.
You should call your team Litter Patrol, and they just go around and pick up litter. Like, get rid of this trash.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll be there with Cobley.
Litter Patrol.
All right. Good night, everyone. Bye.
Good night.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.